Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the BGF podcast. I'm your host, Luca, alongside of
Brandon.
And today we got the Dynasty running back tier list. Decided to keep the tier list going. Love the support on the last one. Thank you guys so much for that. Really means the world to us. And decided to come right back to you guys with the running backs. So
We might do a tight end one later on. We're not 100% sure. We have the draft coming up soon, so we'll see. Maybe we'll bring the tight end one out, but for now the running back seems to probably be the last one on the list, and this is probably the hardest one we've had to do so far, I feel like, because especially dynasty wise, it's so subjective who you value higher, because winning teams are obviously going to value a guy like McCaffrey higher than a guy like maybe Jahmyr Gibbs or whatever. So
yeah, so it's this was fun to make though. I feel like we have quite a few differences again. We have a few similarities as well. So, anyways, let's just get into it.
yeah, like the last episode, we're gonna do our separate list this time. So it'd be interesting to see the differences that we have in there. And you want to start us off with your first tier?
Yeah, so in the elite tier, I got three guys. I got Breece Hall, Bijan Robinson, and Jahmyr Gibbs. In that order. I feel like these three guys are the young studs at the running back position right now. Obviously, we got a rookie draft coming in. I'm not that high on these rookies as I am on some receivers. I don't see them taking over. Obviously, they can take over, but I'm just not that high. And all these guys are under 24 years of age. They're just at elite levels of production. We saw what Breece Hall did last season. His work through the air and the ground has been phenomenal. He's been pretty consistently. Obviously, got hurt first season, but other than that, he's been pretty good. Bijan Robinson, we know this guy's the limit for this guy. We just haven't seen him yet. Other Artie Smith, he was splitting with Tyler Algier. I feel like that's going to stop. Now they get a guy like Kirk Cousins coming at quarterback. Expect a lot more dump-offs. Expect a lot more screens. Expect a lot more action through the air for Bijan. And then Jahmyr Gibbs. Obviously splitting last year with Montgomery. This season, we'll see what he does. I'm really high on Jahmyr Gibbs. I do believe in his value. I think he's only going to get better over time with age. And I expect his production also to ramp up. And that wraps up my elite tier.
Now, for me, my tier 1 is going to be Bijan Robinson as my RB1, Breece Hall, Jahmyr Gibbs, and then in mine, I have Christian McCaffrey as well. Obviously, he doesn't really fit in the same age bracket as these guys, but to me, we saw the production he put last year. He's really in his own tier of running back, and even at his age of, 27 right now, I still have him in this high tier. For me, Bijan Robinson is the RB1, just because we saw this as the best running back prospect since a guy like Saquon Barkley, and even last year in the limited touches that he did get with Algier having to take in some, he did do very good. And with Raheem Morris now in Atlanta and Thomas Robinson, the new OC there, I expect the sky to be the limit there. Guys like Drake London and Kyle Pitts are also going to have huge jumps in production, and I'm high on all the guys from Atlanta. And I don't know whether having Kirk Cousins there is going to help him, or it should help him because it'll make the passing offense more of a threat. So, yeah, and even through the air, he's obviously going to do what he does, and yeah, that's my tier 1. You really hit the nail on the head for these guys. Not much more I got to say. Like Breece Hall, the way he came off that ACL the year, usually it takes a year to really come back to their full capabilities. But Breece Hall, it took him a few games obviously because they had a bit of a leash on him just because they don't want to put too much. But second half of the year, he was absolutely amazing. And he's a guy in redraft leagues I'm going to be looking at as probably my RB 2 or 3 right now. So I like Breece Hall, and then Jahmyr Gibbs. The only reason why Jahmyr Gibbs is probably behind Breece Hall is I feel like his upside without Montgomery would probably have him over him.
Yeah.
It's just like you said, with Montgomery, it's kind of like I don't know what to think. Eventually Jahmyr Gibbs obviously going to take over and be the stud number 1. It's just we know how it is with Dan Campbell and the Detroit Lions. They like having those two backs, and
he likes having that guy that runs down your throat. And then that versatile back like Jahmyr Gibbs.
So as long as Montgomery's in the picture, it's always going to be hard to put him ahead of a guy like Breece Hall.
Yeah.
For me, that's the clear 4 for me. Now,
Sorry.
on to tier 2, I'll start it off. I got Jonathan Taylor, Kyron Williams, Travis Etienne, Devin Achane, Saquon Barkley, and Josh Jacobs as my tier 2. It's a pretty big tier. A lot of guys in this tier, and honestly, I was considering having my own tier of McCaffrey and Taylor as my tier 2. But I feel like McCaffrey kind of put himself over a guy like GT this year with the production he did. But I still like Jonathan Taylor's year. It was unfortunate that he kind of was banged up here and there, but he did have stretches where he looked solid and back to his former self. I'm just going to pull up his numbers here.
Yeah, Jonathan Taylor is always...
What did he finish on his last? Well, I'm not expecting him to finish as... Yeah, he was RB33, but a lot of time missed. We saw he had nice stretches throughout the year, especially in Week 18 against Houston in that last week where they almost made the playoffs. He was going absolutely off in that game with 188 yards, almost cracked 200. And still at 25 years old, still a very young guy. It feels like he's older than that because he's been around for so long. But he's still young at 25, and I still think he's got 3 to 4 years left. And to me, still one of the top running backs in the game. Then you look at a guy like Kyron Williams, who had a huge year last year with the Los Angeles Rams. It's just another big question with Kyron Williams is he wasn't a highly touted prospect, number one, and two, how much is it with the Rams system? Because we know Sean McVay's offense. We've seen running backs like Darrell Henderson, Cam Akers, who have gone on to do nothing after they've left the LA system. So we'll see what happens there. But I still really like Kyron Williams. He had a huge year. Finished as the RB7, and also was banged up midway through the year.
Yeah.
The fact he was still able to have the second most rushing yards in the league, missing 6 games,
is insane. Insanity.
So he really came out of nowhere and was one of the surprises this year. And I got Kyron Williams up here. And then next up, Travis Etienne, a guy who you can interchange with Williams. I just gave Williams the benefit of the doubt because of how good of a year he had last year. But Etienne didn't have a bad year himself. He also had a good year and was healthy, which is good to see considering
the injury history on him. Yeah.
The history on Etienne. I feel like he started off the year really, really good.
Yeah.
And then it kind of dropped off a bit with that whole Jags team. So he kind of goes how that team goes. And I've always liked Etienne since he came out of the draft. He was one of the players, especially last year, that I was super high on. And the fact he's actually the same age as Jonathan Taylor is kind of wild. I didn't even realize that. So that shows Jonathan Taylor how young he really is. And yeah, Etienne finished at the RB3. Obviously, that's because he did play a lot more games and
did a lot of work in the pass catching games.
Yeah, that too. He is, like you say, a good player in the pass catching games. So that's also more upside on Travis Etienne. And then you got next up for me, Devin Achane, who another guy banged up. That's a common theme with the running back position, like it's always been. And a guy who super high upside. We've seen him have huge games. The spike weeks you're gonna get with Devin Achane are gonna be massive. We saw it last year, a 51-point game, fantasy point game versus Denver, 25 versus the Commanders, 23 versus Baltimore. You're gonna get big spike weeks with Devin Achane. It's just now with Mostert getting up there in age, he's 32 years old right now. I'd expect similarly to like what we were saying with Jahmyr Gibbs, Mostert is gonna fall out at one point. And once Achane has the full control of that backfield, he should be absolutely electric. It should be... He's the type of guy with upside that he could end up in that tier 1 with guys like Breece Hall and Gibbs.
Yeah.
So, the sky's the limit with Achane. You're really betting on upside taking a guy like him. And I'd expect in the near future where he'll be one of the best running backs in the NFL. And then next up, these two guys, you can kind of link them together with Saquon Barkley and Josh Jacobs. Saquon Barkley obviously going to one of the better offenses in the league in Philly this offseason, signing a 3-year deal with them. So, there's a bit of longevity there, even though he's 26 years old. He did sign a 3-year deal with Philly. And now he's finally got an offensive line and just a good offense in general. So, a lot of people are expecting him to take a step up this year. I've seen a lot of people have him like in that Jonathan Taylor tier, or at least where I have him like RB4. For me, that's a bit rich. I feel like it's a bit too high because he is obviously up there in age, but I think he will do a lot better with. I don't know about a lot better, but he'll do better with Philly. It's just we'll see. It's gonna be interesting to see. And then next up, Josh Jacobs signing with Green Bay. He's gonna be in that Aaron Jones role. Less of a pass catcher than Aaron Jones was, but probably better through the tackles. And another guy who signs a 3-year deal, so you expect a bit more longevity there and a more guaranteed lifespan, and could hold his value a bit higher than other guys.
Yeah, don't hate that. Anyways, sorry about that, guys. We had a little dog interruption. Brandon's dog came down and just wanted to say hi, so to stop that a little bit. But anyways, I was at my tier 2. I did a little. The way I split this, at least, was I really put the young guys on top, and then the veteran, more productive, prove it guys that we know what they can do. We've seen what they can do. We've seen their production in tier 2. So I have Christian McCaffrey leading the charge, Jonathan Taylor, Saquon Barkley, and Josh Jacobs. Those are my tier 2 guys. Obviously, we know what Christian McCaffrey is capable of. I would not hate it if you put him in the elite tier like Brandon had him. I don't hate that. I think he is an elite running back. I think he is the best running back in the league. And the only thing that's keeping me away from putting him in the elite tier is he is 27. And we know for running backs, their longevity at least is not that high.
He ain't no regular running back.
He ain't no regular running back. You're not wrong. And I hope he can do this for a while. It's just we haven't really seen that since Adrian Peterson. And, maybe he does it. I don't know. We'll see. But anyways, Jonathan Taylor here. I'm a big JT guy. I've always loved Jonathan Taylor. And last season, obviously battling injury, we saw what he looked like. In certain weeks, he looked really good. In some weeks, he looked really, really bad. I think next season, give him a full year recovery. He's going to be elite. He's going to go back to his 1,800-yard season.
Especially with a full training camp as well. That should help out.
Full training camp, full thing. Anthony Richardson healthy. So you got the dual threat quarterback with the Jonathan Taylor running back, and that's just scary. So I'm excited to see what he does there. Saquon Barkley, you touched on him a little bit. He goes to Philly, obviously. Better O-line. That offense is already good, so I can imagine what Saquon can do. We know how explosive he is already, so imagine putting him with a good O-line. Damn. And then Josh Jacobs, one of the more productive backs over the last 2 seasons at least. We know how good he can be. He showed it to us last season, or 2 years ago, I should say. What his potential truly is. Hopefully he can get back to that in Green Bay. I'm still really high on Josh Jacobs. I think he will do really, really good. And obviously, I play him twice a year now, so I'll let you know how good he is. And that's gonna wrap up my tier 2. My tier 3 here, I had a lot of fun with this. These are kind of guys where I wouldn't be upset if you put them higher or lower. I think they have a pretty high floor, and then their upside is really fun. So starting this, I have Travis Etienne, James Cook, Karen Williams, Devin Achane, and Rachaad White. Travis Etienne, Brandon spoke about him. Really, really good dual threat running back. We finally saw him play a full season last year, and he looked pretty good. Obviously started off really strong and just slowed down towards the end of the season, but that whole Jacksonville team in general really, really slowed down. Then James Cook is a guy I really wanted to talk about. Beginning of the season, James Cook was okay. He wasn't too great. He was doing his thing. He was good. He looked good. But then all of a sudden you change the OC, you change the game plan, you run the ball a lot more. James Cook takes over. Finished the season with 1,122 yards, 2 touchdowns on the ground. But here's the interesting thing. 445 yards in the air. Underrated. This season, you get rid of Stephon Diggs, you get rid of Gabe Davis, you have no one in that offense. James Cook's role has just increased dramatically. And I think this season, James Cook has the potential of going RB 5 and up. Mm-hmm. I'm really high on James Cook this year. I think he's going to be phenomenal. He was solid last year. Don't be scared drafting this guy. He's only in his 3rd year of his contract. 23, 24 years of age. I'm not exactly sure. But anyways, don't be scared about him. Kyron Williams, Brandon talked about him a lot. Very, very interesting prospect. Only 2nd year in the league, and we saw what he did last season. Very, very good. Obviously, the Sean McVay offense, he makes people produce, and Kyron was just in a good fit. Really took the bull by the handles and just ran with it, did what he had to do, and looked really, really good. Devin Achane obviously missed some time with injury last season, but when he was there, he was a freak. 103 attempts for 800 yards. He averaged 7.8 yards a carry. Yeah. That's insane. With 8 touchdowns on there and 27 receptions. So, like, Devin Achane is good. He's the absolute definition of lightning in a bottle. We've seen him break plays just that were insane. That whole offense is just based around speed, and
fits the mold.
Devin Achane fits the mold perfectly. And then we got a guy in Rashad White. Sorry, not Rashad. Sorry, I don't know what I said. Not Rashee Rice. Rashad White, who both me and Brandon last season were not high on him. We didn't expect much from him, and oh boy, has he proved us wrong. He absolutely killed it last season. His production through the ground and in the air was both phenomenal. And I think he's sort of in the same role as James Cook, where he can go as high as RB5 next season, even higher. And his floor is pretty safe. I don't think there's going to be much competition there. Don't be scared to get Rashad White, and enjoy him. And that wraps up my tier 3.
For my tier 3, the guys you just discussed, I got up here. I got Rashad White. It's my first guy up, and then James Cook, and then Isaiah Pacheco. On Rashad White, obviously finished as the RB4 last year, which I feel like kind of goes under the radar. He was a guy starting off from like week 7. He went on a huge stretch where he had over 15 points per game in every game and multiple 20-plus point games. I felt like every time I was playing this guy in fantasy last year, he was putting up at least 20 points. And, he's one of these guys that you knew what you were getting off him. And like you had said earlier, I was not high on him. We were both not high on him. I thought he was really just like some satellite back, like a Naeem Hines, and I thought he would just fall off. And he would need like a Leonard Fournette like he did. He'd always be like a 2. But he proved this year that obviously his rushing numbers weren't anything like to wow you, but they were good enough. With how good his production is through the air, it was good enough to make him fantasy productive. So, I really like Rashad White, and he's a guy who actually in our Dynasty League I just traded for. Basically the 201 for him. So, I think that's a pretty good deal in my end. If you could do that type of deal and you need a running back, I would do it. It's just, obviously I never like trading up for running backs, but in this situation I thought 201. There's not many guys I like in that kind of range right now. I feel like the draft right now is kind of being overrated. Not overrated, but I feel like everyone's draft pick hungry. So if I could capitalize on that and get a guy like Rashad White, who I'm really starting to like now, I'll take it. And then next up, James Cook, like you said earlier, definitely I could make a conversation to have him higher. And by next year, I wouldn't be surprised if, like you said, he is with the Kyron Williams and the ETNs and maybe even the Gibbs, which I don't know, that might be a step too high. But with all the changes happening in Buffalo now, with Diggs out, Gabe Davis out, there are wide receiver 1 right now being like Shakir and Curtis Samuel. I'm expecting, since Joe Brady came in that second half of the year, it was all James Cook, and they ran the ball like crazy, and I'm expecting that to be put up even, again, probably even more now without those guys. So I'm expecting a big year from James Cook, and he could be one of the, he's a guy right now in fantasy drafts, redraft or dynasty. I'm loving him as a sneaky RB1 because you can get him in like the 4th, 5th round. Yeah. Maybe if you're lucky 6th, but that's kind of pushing it. But 4th, 5th round, he's the type of guy I like. Go receiver early and then grab him as my RB1. I really like that. I feel like he will put up those type of numbers this year. So I like James Cook. If you're gonna acquire James Cook for a good price, what would be the highest you would go on James Cook in terms of honestly 110? I would consider it.
Back end first, I would do it. Like 110, 111, 112, that range.
Even 109. Honestly, I just wouldn't give anything in the top 8 because I feel like the top 8 is a nice tier of. Actually, maybe not. 109 I probably wouldn't do because I also like Brian Thomas a lot. Anything
under Brock Bowers, I would probably do it.
Yeah.
Depending where he goes in the draft.
I think he's probably in that 8 range. So anything 109 and later, I don't hate for James Cook. So yeah. And then next up, Isaiah Pacheco, a guy who had a great season last year and great playoffs like he did the year before. We're seeing Kansas City with their offense not being as explosive as it's been in recent years, run the ball a lot more. So Isaiah Pacheco is going to continue to be productive. How old is he right now? That's actually
Pacheco, I think, is 23 or 24.
I feel like he might be 25.
Really?
It's possible. Yeah, he's 25.
Oh, sorry, guys.
Yeah, he was an older back when he came in. So yeah, I like Isaiah Pacheco. I feel like you're gonna get, what you're gonna get with him. Pretty consistent guy. You're gonna get your 15 plus points a nice solid RB2 in my opinion, and he's one guy though I wouldn't really trade too much for. If I can get him for a mid-second, that's where I'm starting to trade picks for Isaiah Pacheco. So if you can get in the mid to early second, so like probably 204 is probably the earliest I do for Pacheco. If you can do that, then I'd like that in a trade. So that caps up my tier 3. And then now finally my tier 4, I got 2 guys wrapping it up. I don't know if we had mentioned it earlier, but this is just our top 15 that we're doing. So it is a very elite class.
Yeah, it's a very condensed list.
Not many guys, so these are the final 2 guys in my tier 4. Javonte Williams and Kenneth Walker. Obviously, Javonte Williams, he was coming off a major injury last year. Did he miss time? I feel like
Who, Javonte?
Yeah, did he miss time last year?
He did.
Or did he play? Did he play most of the year? I'm not even.
He played most of it, but he missed time.
No, he played all year. He just missed 1 game against the Jets. So yeah.
Okay.
Coming off the injury he came off of, it's actually very impressive that he was still able to play every game besides 1 in week 5. Obviously, it wasn't the Javonte Williams we're used to, but I feel like second year off an ACL injury is usually when these type of players come back to their former selves. Like we saw with Barkley, year 1 was kind of rough. Then year 2 he took off and had a great year. Breece Hall was obviously the exception, but how good of a talent he is, he just bang off year 1. And plus, Javonte Williams is still only 23 years old, which is kind of crazy.
He's a very young back.
Feels like he's been around for quite a while, and for him to only be 23, still very young. He's got age on it and time on his side, so I still like Javonte Williams. I feel like he's really valued super low with Dynasty players right now.
Yeah.
People are not valuing Javonte Williams very highly, so like I said with Pacheco in those mid to second rounders, if you can get him for that type of price, I'm in on Javonte Williams, and I'd take a chance on him because whoever you're going to pick with that second round pick, it's probably going to be one of those running backs like Trey Benson or Jonathan Brooks. So if you're going to take a chance on them, might as well take a chance on a guy like Javonte Williams, who's basically the same age as those guys. And we know was a highly touted prospect coming out. So I still like Javonte Williams, and he is my RB14. And capping off my RB15, Kenneth Walker, a player who I'm not too fond of, but I'll give him some sort of respect because he is still kind of young at 20. He's still 23 years old.
Yeah.
And he did have a great start to the year. Last year, he was one of the better running backs to start off the year, and then he kind of fell off a cliff after his injury.
Yeah.
So Kenneth Walker is still a decent back. I just feel like Zach Charbonnet at one point is going to be able to take a bit off his plate. And
hopefully.
I just don't feel like Kenneth Walker is a 3-down back. I feel like he's really just a between the tackles guy, and then on 3rd down, they're always going to have another guy there. So that's always why I've never been too big of a fan of Kenneth Walker, and I still have him as my RB15. Still give him some sort of respect. So that's going to cap off my list. Where you going in your tier 4?
My tier 4, a little similar to you, I guess. I got Isaiah Pacheco, who you mentioned earlier, Javonte Williams, who you just talked about, and then capping off my running back list, I got Mr. Ty Chandler. If you're not new to this channel, you know how high I am on this man. I absolutely love Ty Chandler. He's got that explosiveness that you want in a running back. Can absolutely break tackles and just make big plays on his own. And obviously this year we got Aaron Jones coming in. It will be a split backfield, but I do believe Ty Chandler has gained more respect, more equity by Kevin O'Connell. I think last year when he did play, he looked good. And we saw that capability of him being able to just break runs and break big tackles and just 20, 25-yard gains, which we weren't getting with Madison. We were getting with Ty Chandler. So I feel like it should be fun. Him and Aaron Jones, the split should be interesting, but I do see Ty Chandler edging the split in his favor. I do see Ty Chandler just having a pretty productive season as the Vikings guy, especially considering that the team is going to be more run-heavy than they've ever been since they don't have a quarterback going into next season. At least that's what I believe. Unless we got big Sammy D slinging the rock a lot all over the place, I think it's going to be a run-heavy team. And if you get equity in any running backs, Aaron Jones, Ty Chandler, take it with the Vikings. I think they're going to be good for you this year. And that's going to wrap up my list.
We could get into some guys, some honorable mentions that we didn't really name. guys like Ramondre Stevenson, Alvin Kamara, Tony Pollard, Derrick Henry, Nick Chubb didn't quite make the list, but I don't know. The older guys are just guys I'm not really looking to trade for right now unless I'm on a win now team. So shine some light on the younger guys, and that wraps up our list. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode of our RB tier list. Next week we should be coming with a mock draft. The draft is coming up soon, so it's
2 weeks away.
It's getting excited. Should expect some trades around that time. I don't know your Vikings if they're gonna do one before draft time or if it's gonna be during the draft or if they will make one at all.
Hey, listen, it's gonna happen draft night, and I'm running to Detroit if that happens.
It's in Detroit, the draft.
It's in Detroit.
Oh, that's gonna be interesting.
Yeah.
So, hope you guys enjoyed. We'll see you guys in the next one. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. And thanks for the support that we've gotten in these last videos. And see you guys in the next one.
See ya.